I think now, though, we need to move into the space of the person who is going to share with us part of their success story. And Arthur, would you join with me? I think it's time that we welcome Christine to the stage. Over to you to let us know how we're going to be able to learn from Christine in this next session. Thanks, everyone. I look forward to seeing you after this.
Thank you, Fee. What a great way to start, Fee. You said it all. I'm so excited for this session. We got a little glimpse of Christine Ewin last May. We got a little glimpse, and we're really, really happy to have Christine Ewin speak with us this morning again to address the Black Salt 2025 conference. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Christine Ewin, Managing Director for my agent team, beg your pardon. The 2022 REI National Award winner for Best Small Real Estate Agency. Christine's journey in real estate began in 2001 with absolutely no prior experience. Yet she quickly rose to prominence, winning the International Best New Talent Award in her first year. Known for her authenticity and connection with people, Christine is a celebrated industry leader. She's a keynote speaker and a former #1 salesperson for a national franchise. Amazing. Her company, My Agent, reflects her values: honesty, compassion, and a people-first approach. A crowd favourite at Black Salt 2024. We are so happy to have her back, speaking her absolute truth. If I can do it, so can you. Please join me in welcoming Christine Ewin.
Hey.
I'll give you the speaker. Where do you want
a clicker. Hi guys, how are you? All right.
Over there?
No, it's okay. I can do anything once I've got a purple folder. Hey. It's a great honour. I decided to become a keynote speaker because I wished that when I was sitting in a room just like you guys, 23 years ago, at 30 years of age, I went to AREC. Oh my God. I saw this guy stand on stage and tell me that he was $1 million writer. He was so dollar productive. This guy got up at like 4:30, did around about 10-kilometre run, did a gym session, ate a protein ball, did 50 prospecting calls in the car on the way to work. And I literally sat there and thought, I'm a bit fat and I'm a bit chaotic and I think I'm going to shit the bed at this job. But I reckon if I ever become successful, I'm going to go to AREC and I'm going to tell them that if I can be successful, anybody can. Because when I decided to, so then they gave me the topic, if I can do it, you can too. So I decided that I wanted to do the keynote. So I reached out to Leanne Pilkington, the God, the president, Madam President of the Australian Real Estate Institute. She says to me, Chris, why don't you come and speak at Lang & Simmons? It wasn't like, oh, why don't you go and do CWA first? It was like, bang, there I was. And I thought, oh, I've got to nail this. And I had to fly into the Gold Coast. And I thought, what happened to me on my maiden voyage of being a keynote speaker actually is a great parallel in life in real estate. So I decided I was going to be that organised that I was going to pack my bag. I mean, I macrameed my underwear. They were around about this big. I had them all in the... And I thought, right, I'm going to not miss the flight. I'm going to stay at the Vibe Hotel in Canberra the night before and I'm going to rehearse my speech and I'm going to drink around about 5 margaritas. I drank 5. I then got to the airport early so that I could stay at the hotel to actually get there. I pull up in my SUV and I get out my suitcase and it's just perfect height. I pull my suitcase up, it's 20 kilos. As I hold it up, I think, oh God, I can't actually hold that. And it clips the top of my linen pants, my elasticated linen pants. So as I roll it down my body, I completely dack myself. And I decided, you know what, I didn't want to have dirty undies, so I won't wear any, I'll go commando. So as I roll my suitcase down in front of myself, I'm doing this self-talk of, this isn't good, this isn't good, this isn't good. Then my pants are stuck at the bottom. My ass is now facing the Vibe Hotel. And I'm trying to unclick. And I just think, this is my moment. Setbacks are a given, but the ability to bounce back. So what I thought was, right, I'll just stand up and show everyone my box. I pop my pants back on, I put my Prada handbag on top of my suitcase, and I roll on towards the Vibe Hotel. I ring my girlfriend and I say, hey girl. She goes, what you doing? And I said, I just dacked myself in Canberra Airport. She's like, right, so we're doing well, are we? And I was like, we're doing real well. So I go up and speak at the Lang & Simmons conference, and look, I was fabulous. And then it kept coming, you know, because the gigs kept coming. So let me tell you, this is where I live. I live in a little place called Bateman's Bay. They sell around about 540 properties in the last year, and my agent team sold 185 of them. We are the eastern suburbs of Canberra. So that's the King's Highway. Anybody owns a house in Bateman's Bay, darling, or Mollymook, Ulladulla as well. We haven't branched out there yet, but they have a lot of Sydney money as well. So our average sale price is around about, what is it, girls? 750,000, I think. So let me tell you, this is how my life started in real estate from the beginning. I am the baby of 7 children. I am from blue-collar country stock. I met my first boyfriend when I was 15, and I got engaged to him when I was 18. I got married when I was 19. I had my first son when I was 20 and my second son when I was 21. And then essentially I was broke because I was rearing 2 little kids. We were renting a house. I'd never been to an open for inspection. I never thought I was ever going to get out of the rental cycle. And I got a job to go into real estate. I didn't really like real estate agents. I mean, they collected my rent and inspected my house, but I didn't really know much about the industry at all. So I had to take a massive leap of faith because I didn't have the money to be able to do the course. So what they did was they told me, oh, P.S., for you to become a real estate agent, you need to pay $2,500 because I was going with the LJ Hooker network. So they said, you'll get assigned a coach for your first year in the industry, an accountability coach, and you'll go and do a course called Future Champions. But it's going to cost $2,500. I'd never borrowed money in my life. And I had to do probably the worst thing I've ever done. I rang my mother-in-law and I asked for a loan. So my back was against the wall. $2,500. I borrowed $10,000 because I didn't even have a car to do real estate in. And then I sent my husband to Canberra to go buy me a car. All I said was, back then, for you young guys, back then you used to put buyers in cars. And he went and bought me a 2-door Mitsubishi Lancer with no air conditioning and wind-down windows. So when I used to take buyers around, I used to sit in the car and press my head and go and flip my chair down with me in it and say, hop in the back, guys. And that's how I started in real estate. So off I go to Sydney, to the big smoke, my big leap of faith. This is where, for 5 days, they tear you down and they rebuild you into a real estate agent. And this is where, and every day, so they started off with around about 50 of us, I think, in the class, and then every day it got smaller and smaller because only the champions got through. So they used to pull you aside like the idol or something and tell you got punted. I never even questioned it. I just thought there was a serial killer in the room. Anyway, I get there day one, and the guy, he's out the front, he says, everybody take your pen and paper, he says, and write down your top 5 goals. Everybody just started writing, like this was very normal. I looked around, and this is what I wrote. Fuck. I sat and I looked and I thought, I haven't ever done a goal and I don't know why I'm here, and I've got to do this in the next 12 months. So then he said, and when you're finished, I'm going to ask you to come up and share. And I was like, fuck. So the first girl gets up and she says, I'd like to, they didn't call me first, thank God. I'd like to be a top salesperson in my office. And I was like, I'd like to do that too, so I wrote that down. Next person says, I'd like to be a member of the Captain's Club. I was like, I have no freaking idea what that is. But everyone started nodding and going, yes. And I was like, right, I'll be that as well. And then they said, one guy says, I'd like to earn $100,000 a year. This was in 2001, I was earning 30. I was like, so would we all, mate. I'll write that down. Then I got the gist of what was going on. And I thought, I'm not going to see these clowns ever again. So I'm just going to get up there and I'm going to say I'm going to own a house. I'm going to put a deposit on a home. I've got no money, but hell, no. And then I thought, you know what, fuck it. I'll have a BMW as well. So I wrote that down. They said, all right, you want to get up here and share it. And I was like, oh yeah, I do. What they didn't tell me is they flew my boss in. So on the Friday, he had to sit there and I had to do a full mission statement and say this is what I was going to achieve. And I was like, fuck. So then I realised that real estate agents are all very weird, because then I get to my office on the first day and there's a photo, blue tacked, BMW, sitting next to my, like, poof, there's a BMW sitting there, and they're starting to talk about what house I'm going to buy. I'm like, dude, that was a goal. I didn't know I had to do these things. So out of the box I come, and I become a member of the multi-million-dollar chapter, which is the top 5%. I became the top agent in my office. I earned $100,000. I put a deposit, I paid my mother-in-law back on my second commission cheque. My third commission cheque, I put a deposit on a house. It was a ship box and it cost $107,000. And it had 3 bedrooms. No, not really. The last 2 bedrooms, really, I put my kids in cupboards. They were the smallest bedrooms you've ever seen. And on my last day, on my 12-month anniversary, I picked up the keys to my BMW. Don't get excited. It was 10 years old and it was mauve. But I looked out from my kitchen window. I didn't even have a garage. And there's my mauve BMW, and I thought, pinch me, I've made it. So, this is the results. I followed the blueprint I was given. I didn't try and reinvent the wheel. For rookies in the room, listen to me very, very hard. There are no shortcuts. Don't think you're going to be able to reinvent the wheel. There's reasons why people put programs in place. That's because that works. It's because you've got to trust the process. You have to hotspot, you need to door knock, you need to build a profile, and you need to engage with your community. I became a finalist for International Best New Talent. I was nominated and my regional manager called me in and said, you've been nominated for International Best New Talent. And I was like, that's fantastic. Didn't know what it really meant. Then I found out it meant that I was going to win a trip to San Francisco with LJ Hooker. I was going to fly to Perth. It was the first time I was going to go in a plane. And here I was going over to Perth for the award. All I said to my sons, who were 9 and 10, I said, if Mum wins, what I'll do is I'll take you to Disneyland. Now you think about it. $800 in the bank, borrowed money off my mother-in-law. Next minute I'm saying to my kids, I'm going to take you to Disneyland. That's what real estate did for me. Just hard work and doing the blueprint. So my husband rang when it got announced, because it's one of the big awards late at night. And there was around about 3 hours difference between Perth, and it was like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and he rang my mum and he said she's won. And my mum went in and she just leant down and she grabbed my boy's hand, and my son woke up and he said, your mum just won. The kids jumped out of bed, they ran round and round and round the lounge room, and so Mum and Dad had to get up and make a cup of tea and settle them down. So my kids ended up going to Disneyland. And you talk about Menos, and Maria talk about your why. That was my why. It wasn't about getting up on stage and talking about how fabulous I was. It was about me being able to give my kids an amazing life. And a life, originally it was because I wanted them to have straight teeth, because I knew I was never going to be able to afford an orthodontist. Anyway, and then on the plane home I said to my husband, you know what, I think I'm really good at this, why don't you retire and look after the kids? And he said, okay. So, I did what I was told to do. I always had a PA. And the PA was assigned to me from day one, and I can't live without one. I still can't live without one, even though I actually don't really do much anymore, but I still want a PA. I set goals. My boss used to set goals, and when I say he was a goalpost mover, he was horrific. He used to tell me that I was never good enough. And so he used to feed me the shit sandwich, you know. Christine, you're great. We love having you as part of the team, but you're never going to be resilient enough to make $1 million. But you know what? I like the way you try. So you sort of always walked away, getting patted on the head and kind of kicked in the arse at the same time. You weren't kind of sure what was going on. So I couldn't do higher than 600. Now, back then, that was a lot of money. That's probably doing $1 million now, or 1.2. Actually, I'd like to say 2 million, because then it'd make me look really good. But I couldn't, and that's because it wasn't my goal. That was because it was his. And it was because he handicapped me as well. He made me the sales manager. And you know what? I bought into that too. Hook, line and sinker. I had the badge. I thought, oh, I get to run the office. And the fact was, he went and opened another franchise 20 minutes south, and then when he sold it, he said, move over, Princess, the king is back. I learnt to work in all markets. I learnt to be resilient. It was a baptism of fire that I started in 2001. Where I really thought that real estate agents pulled up on the front lawn looking like rock stars. And there was 1,000 people out the front all wanting to give me offers. It was the most amazing thing. And then I went through the slide where every conversation you have is telling your owner that the house is not worth what you said it was. And then I went through the balanced market, which I love. I stayed with LJ Hooker for 2003 to 2008, and I became a lifetime member of the multi-million-dollar chapter. I was 56th in the network, and I became the sales manager of Bateman's Bay. So when the boss came back and said, move over, Princess, the king is back, the princess moved down the road to Rain and Horn. I was to stay there for a period of 10 years. Kate Quinlivan, who's sitting here with me, she used to work with me at Rain and Horn. She would call this my arsehole era. I was as dollar productive as you could be. I was laser focused. I had an ideal day, an ideal week. And at 3 p.m. Friday, I used to swing around my chair and say, hey guys, what's going on? And they'd all look at me like, what? Because I would not talk to anybody. Pretty much if I was away from my family, I was making money. I was on the phone. I never got involved in what you ate for dinner last night. I never got involved in the water cooler conversations. I never got involved in the office politics. I was there to make money because I had some big goals that I wanted to achieve. And I became the #1 salesperson for Rain and Horn Network in, 2009. And then I was the top 10 in Australia for 10 consecutive years. I grew his business and I trained his staff. I built a team. I became his $1 million agent, and I was impressive. And I always went above and beyond. And I thought outside the square, and I've always been a people pleaser. So thinking outside the square, doing things, going that extra mile, being the agent that everybody wants, an attraction agent. I'll explain. I went to an open for inspection. My owners were school teachers, and they had gone on holidays for 2 weeks. And you know when the house is just Fort Knox. So I got there early. I unlocked that place. I ended up walking through deadbolt to the laundry, out to the back door, make it easy for buyers to be able to transition through the house. I see a bird cage open, door open. I see a cockatiel on the outside of the window, hanging onto the gauze. I go, so I go out the back. I can't quite reach the cockatiel. I decide I'm going to prise off the gauze. I get the gauze off. I grab the bird. The bird doesn't like it. It's screaming. I'm bleeding. It's biting the shit out of me. I stuff that thing in the cage. I give it some water. I give it some seed. I put it down. Blah, blah, blah. I do the open for inspection. I lock the house up. I say goodbye to the bird. I walk down hello, Mr. Vendor. Just wanted to let you know, 4 parties through today. 2 of them didn't really like the backyard, didn't like this and didn't like that, but 2 of them are kind of interested, and I'll organise to give them a call on Monday. Got to let you know your bird got out of its cage. I caught it and put it back in. They said, Christine, our budgie died 6 weeks ago. I said, well, you've got yourself a new bird. Yeah. Now, in every great script, there's always a complication. Meet my beautiful parents. This is Leo and Ewin, my support, my cheer squad, and part of my everyday. They live just down the road from my office, so I used to always duck in there for a wee. They attended my auctions every Saturday. He's in the room. My dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and he fought the longest fight, and eventually he was to succumb to it. I was his death advocate, and when he was ready to throw the towel in, I was by his side, and he said that he was leaving my mum in good hands. My little mum, 4'11", always dressed in pink. I just didn't think that she could live without him after being together for 60 years. She had lapses of memory. I remember the day my girlfriend, I was pouring a glass of wine, and she said, Chris, how's your mum? I said, she's wearing 18 necklaces and around about 9 bracelets. I think she's turning into Mr. T. She said, love, your mum's got dementia. I said, I don't have time for my mum to have dementia. I just lost my dad to cancer. The dementia diagnosis came. And she stayed at my place 4 nights a week. And on a Friday afternoon, I would go and pick her up from work, and then she'd stay with me Friday night, and then I'd pack us our lunch, and she would come with me on a Saturday and do my open for inspections. She'd stay in the car and read magazines. Sometimes I'd get her out and take her to the loo. And it was always fun, because she'd say, oh, Bub, do you think you're going to sell that house? It's a lovely house. I'd say, Mum, I reckon I've nailed it. And that I'm going to sell that house. And the next week she'd turn up, she'd say, oh, Bub, that's a lovely house. She never knew what I was selling and what I wasn't selling. But she was adorable, and eventually, you know, the parts of the brain that rust, she ended up having a fall. She hit the coffee table, and I went to Bega with her, and the doctors said that they were only going to operate for palliative care reasons, and it was time for me to take my mum home and let her go. So I called the family, there's only a couple of ways to get to the Clyde, down the Clyde Mountain, the King's Highway, or the Brown Mountain. And my family were all coming from the country. A nurse comes in and she says that the Clyde Mountain was closed. There'd been a suspected fatality, that there'd been a head-on the King's Highway, so my family were going to be diverted. I'm sitting there, everyone's worried that they're going to miss the event, and I am holding my mum's hand. She's unconscious at this stage. And my phone starts ringing on the floor. I see it vibrating, and I actually had a message on it saying that just a phone, rain and horn, that I wasn't going to be answering my messages. I binged and I thought, I picked up my phone and I listened, and it said, "My name's Joel Royal. I'm on the King's Highway. I've come across a head-on. It's your son." And in that moment, I thought, I'm going to lose my mum and my son on the same day. So I had to make a decision on whether I went to my son, who was being taken to ICU in Canberra, or whether I was going to stay with my mum. I stayed with my mum, and on the 23rd of May 2015 at 10:20, I said goodbye to her. I drove to Canberra the next morning to see my baby boy get out of his third surgery. He broke his hip, he had pulmonary embolisms, he broke an ankle. I planned a funeral. I did my mum's eulogy, and a week later I went back to work and I sold the property for the highest sale price of Rosedale. It was easier to be Christine Ewin, the real estate agent, than it was to be Leo and Yvonne's daughter. And you know what? We all do this as real estate agents. I bargained that I'd be right after I just finished this auction campaign. I'm going to be okay once summer comes. I'm going to be okay. I just need a holiday. So I scheduled the obligatory sun lounge. I scheduled the obligatory sun lounge cocktail tick list. You know, the one where you go, all right then, I'm going to go on a holiday, and then you arrive and then you lay on a sun lounge and you drink 40 margaritas and you get back up and you get back on the plane and you go, right, holiday, tick. Essentially what I did for everybody else. I was making everyone happy, and I was just so sad inside that I ran from grief for 3 solid years. I was just running like Forrest Gump. I disconnected from my family, I disconnected from my husband, I disconnected from my friends and my children. And I went, all right, off to Vietnam. And I got sick in Cambodia, and I coughed my way around Asia, and I finally left my husband in Singapore and said I was divorcing him. And I flew back to Australia and I put a blanket over my head for 3 days and blocked all phone calls and hoped to die. It was my face down in the arena moment. My Rome fell. And I didn't know whether I was going to get back on my feet, and I didn't know whether I was going to be able to do real estate. Oh, thanks. I'm sniffing my way through black salt now. So I walked through the doors of my work gingerly. 3 years before, my boss had left his wife and hooked up with a 23-year-old and started bringing her into the boardroom, so you can say that things had changed. So I quit my job 6 days after I returned from holidays. Some people go to Mecca. I went to Townsville in a camper trailer with my dog, and I said sorry to my husband. And I cried on 1,000 beaches, and I drank a distillery worth of gin. And I just didn't know what I was going to do next. So when you guys said take a year off, I was like, oh yeah, I did that. I got real fat too. Man, and could I drink. I drank, and living in a camper trailer makes your life real small, and I realised that I can live out of a plastic tub. I spent 9 months travelling, and then I tried my hand at coaching, and I even unpacked a business as a general manager. And I unpacked that and went, yeah, nah. And I had a meagre inheritance that I'd sat on for 4 years, and I wanted it to be a legacy to my parents. So my mum's favourite colour was pink. So I decided I'd open an agency, and my sold signs were pink love hearts, so that every time I sold a home, I was sending love to my mum and dad. And that was going to be their legacy. And I also knew, selfishly, I was never going to fail. I was never going to fail them. So I came up with the idea, because I didn't know what I was doing. I went to Facebook and I said, can you guys help me? I need to actually work out what font I want for the agency. I called it my agent, Christine Ewin, so that people knew where I went. After 20 years in a local area, it's a bit dumb not to put my name on the door, but I didn't want to leave it there forever. So what I did was I registered it as my agent team. I thought I'd keep it small and keep it simple, and I got people to vote on my branding, from my font through to my artwork. Social media became the jury of what people wanted and expected. And after 6 months, I had the biggest grand opening, and after 6 months, the Black Summer fires came. Took all our Christmas business, took all our trades, people fled, the whole place was decimated, 300 homes lost. Then we lost our Easter trade to COVID, and I thought, good time to go into business, Christine. So we wanted to focus on a project. I wanted the girls to do something for the community, and so we chose International Women's Day. It suited my brand. So 2021 right through, we started as a luncheon. We have now had Taryn Brumfitt, last year Yana Pittman, and next year it's going to be Yelena Docking. My business heavily subsidises this. This is one thing I can say to you as a business owner: get an event. So, everyone loves stats. Manos, you'll love the stats. So for people thinking about going into business, these are net figures. So the first year I did $1 million. Year 2, 2 million. This doesn't include my rent roll. Year 3, 3.2 million. We grew our rent roll from 0 to 180 properties and 90 holiday managements. We won Small Residential Agency of the Year, New South Wales. We then came to Melbourne and we won it for Australia. In Australia, not for Australia. Well, I drank for Australia that night. So much so they had to post the award because we lost it. We actually did, true story. Everyone got on the plane and went, fuck, who's got the award? I don't know. So after 3 years, I took my name off the door, and my agent, Christine Ewin, was now advertised as the registered company name as my agent team, and we celebrated by buying our own commercial residence, and we did a fabulous bougie fit out, and this is the team that I have today. Look how hot they are. Big spunks, 15 of them. Now, this is how our year has panned out against our competitors, and this is our 5th year in business. There's our market share. And Ray White, can I say, Ray White have got 4 offices, and they work from a huge geographical region, and then they put it all together so that they make themselves look better than they are. Just saying that. That may be a little bitchy, but... Anyway, so this is how... so in our 5th year, in the fin year, so from July 1st to now, my girls have done 2.5 million in GCI. So they're on track to do $5 million bucks. Eh? No, but you know what the girls are doing? They're like... And what? We never talked about 5 million. You just found out now. Surprise. You guys call them EBUs, we call them pods. And this is how they work. So, pod 1 is Team Quinlivan. Now, Kate's a young mum, 3 and 4. 2 and 4. 2 and 3? All right, they're young. And she's got 17 years experience and she worked with me at Rain and Horn, and they're the roles that they have. I did this slide for guys that are thinking, if you haven't got a PA, get one. But if you want to build an EBU, these are the things that we do in our office, and we call them pods. So Peggy McAllister, she has Sam, Peggy's not here, she's in Bali, but Sam is incredible at what she does as well. And they've been together for like 10 years, so I think synergy is really important in your EBU when you're building one. So I want to just talk about, so Megan Goucher started with me, she's my OG, she started with me when I opened the agency from scratch. She's $1 million agent, she became $1 million agent within 5 years. Anna Mack, she's 2 years experience with me. 2 years GCI of 550,000 in a second year. So this is the benchmark stuff that I think nobody really talks about. And I think it's important because I think that that's the sort of networking stuff that you want to know what your numbers are so that you can compare. I take my role as I bring in the clients and I create a safe space for my girls to work. So I'm going to tell you what my role is. Nearly 2 years ago, I took off my tool belt. So I thought it was really important that I wasn't captain coach. So I want to tell you about how I run my pods. So I've got 4 pods. I've got 4 unbelievable agents. So why would I have to compete with them? So I've got a 20 years experience. These people come through the door or they phone me and they say, Chris, I'm thinking about selling my house. What I do is I go, sure, I'll come out. So I meet with them and I take the agent that I think is going to suit them. The one that's got the personality type that I think is going to be right. You know, back to the every agent has a vendor. I take them out and I just explain, I don't get in my own way as far as like I'm so important. I just go, this person is better than me because I'm running a company. This girl is going to do a greater job than I will. I'm here to oversee it. I don't need to. And I go out, win the business, sign them up, and I charge my girls 20%. Just like a referral fee. But if you want me to do a phone call on a Monday with them, do price reduction meetings, auction pricing or any of that, then you'll pay me 30% if you want me to be involved in the vendor management. So they get to choose. Otherwise, all phone calls come in, they get rotated through the office. But my clients, and I choose who they go to. So I do scripts and dialogues. I'm a tribunal warrior and I have a revolving door with a lounge that the girls lay on because I am their therapist. And so here are my tips to recap my life in real estate. 0 to 5 years, I could not fail because I was flying trapeze without a safety net. Now I heard that term, I don't know whether it was Joel Hood, but somebody said, burn the bridge. Burn the bridge, I blew the bridge up. There was no way I was ever going to be able to come back. After borrowing $10,000 and I was on 30 grand a year, there was no way I was ever going to be able to pay that back. I had no option but to succeed. Don't have a crack at real estate. Make it your career. The amount of times that people say, oh yeah, I thought about being a real estate agent. And I always think, yeah, I thought about being Elle Macpherson too. That shits me. Build the business you want, not the one you have. So if you don't hire a PA because you're sitting around the water cooler talking about how shit your life is, stop it. Get yourself a PA, get yourself another mouth to feed so you have to be accountable, and then you'll do the numbers. Stop finding excuses. It's the greatest killer of momentum. And this is the time to back yourself. Be laser focused. 5 to 10 years for the other guys in there. Rightio, you're feeling yourselves. Ego is your enemy. This is where you start making some traction in real estate. This is where you create a reputation. And this is when you become a wanker. You believe your own propaganda. You buy a car that you can't afford. You buy a house to impress people. You go and get yourself a little investment property at the Gold Coast for your Instagram. My advice, pay off your debt. Pay off your debt. And if you're hanging around people that stroke your ego and you're having to shout the verve, stop it. The amount of times I've seen self-sabotage, substance abuse, partying like it's 1988, drinking and cheating is a symptom of having too much money, too much success and not knowing what to do with it. You become a dog with two dicks. And you sabotage what you think you don't deserve. If you're feeling yourself and you're excited about your success, share it with your mum and dad. Tell your family that love you unconditionally, but keep a lid on it. Pay off your debt and start building for your next 5 years. If you want to own a business, open an agency, don't own a bigger EBU. That's the biggest thing I see people make mistakes with. Do not just hire staff and then not feed them and just have them as your legs. If you're looking for an expensive billboard, buy one, don't open an office and put your name and your face out there and have everybody fail around you. The best piece of advice I can give you is you go from being at the top of the pyramid to the bottom. You go from being top dog to shit kicker. You clean up messes, you worry about them and you worry about the business. You're the one that has to be brave and you're the one that's going to be lonely as a business owner. And your name's not going to be in lights. You now are the unsung hero. And it's the way it should work because no one's going to love your business like you do. And if you feel entitled and that your staff should appreciate you paying their wage and showing up and they get to have a job, you should feel appreciative that they show up and buy into your company every day. In closing, real estate is a roller coaster, and I think everybody's put this analogy up there. I bought my ticket for a ride when I couldn't afford it. And I held on for dear life with white knuckles, and I rode the dizzy heights and the stomach-sinking lows, and because I needed to get the money's worth out of my ticket. And I stayed on because of ego, and I stayed on because I got used to the pace, and I stayed on because sometimes I wasn't brave enough to get off. And somehow I got addicted to the adrenaline. But a few years ago, I spent some time off on the platform and I said I was never going to get back on. But I bought another ticket and now I jump on and off as I like. My adrenaline comes from watching the girls on the carriages before me, full of hot dogs and fairy floss with their hands in the air whizzing past me. And I'm just holding their mobile phones and their handbags. And I'm there to keep them safe, and I hold their hair when they vomit from too much fun, in more ways than one. I'm ready with all my knowledge to support them, and I'm there to celebrate them, and I'm there to commiserate with them. I'm tough, I'm fair, I built a business that I wanted to work for, and I learnt from my mistakes. But I'm nothing out of the ordinary. I don't have a degree. If I don't know something, I ask. If I don't know something and I know I'm never going to know something, I outsource it. I just had a plan. I had a goal. I never got in my own way. And the one thing I'm really good at is building a culture. A culture that attracts champions. And I'm so blessed to have these champions with me today. Make sure you pick their brains at morning tea. Ask them about their EBU if you're just starting out. I'm so very blessed to have these champions, and I'm blessed for being asked to come to Black Salt. It's been an absolute honour. Thanks so much, guys.
Oh, wow. Christine. What an absolutely sensational session for our second session of the day. I think that deserves another round of applause. Who's keen for a job with Christine now? I think we're all, that was so, you asked this morning some key things that you wanted out of today was, of course, business growth. Well, we can see how that's happened. We can see the roller coaster and the whole journey of that. I think we can see that Christine has literally done what she set out to do by, taking to the stage and speaking and sharing a story, is actually showing the reality. One of the beautiful things for me of watching Christine, and I've watched hundreds, if not thousands of presenters over the last 22 years, is many of them, they come on the stage, but I know what happens in their office. And those two things can be very different. We're seeing her team here today. We saw the authenticity with which she spoke, and I can tell you that what you saw from Christine today, we saw the rawness of it, and we saw the reality of what hard work, what it takes to be in real estate. We saw passion, we saw a goal, we saw an unrelenting why. I know if I borrowed something from my mother-in-law, let me tell you, my father-in-law, if it's the whippersnipper, you want to get that thing back pronto, let alone 10 grand, many, many, many years ago. So I've written down so many notes. I hope, has everybody been putting things down on their post-its? Let's get some post-its up as we're walking out today so that we can share those. For me, I've taken away from you, Christine, for my own business even today, is what is your role? What is it that's your job? If you weren't there tomorrow, what needs to get replaced? And I'm going to send us all out to the break. Take a moment, write a note for Christine, write a note for Manos and Maria about how you felt about their presentation, a networking moment for a friend. I'm going to see you all back in here at 11 o'clock. I cannot wait to see what the rest of the day entails. Thanks, everybody.